everyone, this is the Final Bosman, and on today's episode, I'm giving myself a summer lesson. Welcome to the show. I am Kyle Bosman, and this week, excited to talk about summer lesson. What is summer lesson, you may ask? That's a fair question. Honestly, you know what? Go ahead and ask that. I would ask that too. This was a game? I'm not sure it's a game. This is something that Tekken producer-director Katsuhiro Harada introduced at Sony's pre-TGS press conference a couple of Sundays ago. And I mean, here it is. You should just look at it. This is what you should see. You should see this instead of me describing it. What we see here are adults putting on Project Morpheus in order to be in a room with a schoolgirl. And the only interaction we see these adults have with the schoolgirl is that they can stare at her in different ways. That's summer lesson. And you know what's funny is we should be mad about this. You should not put that in a press conference. This should not exist in the first place. The weird thing is though, I'm okay with summer lesson. And so today's episode is the story of why I am begrudgingly okay with summer lesson. Chapter 1, Ninja Turtles. I have a friend named Tim, and I think we all have Tims. Tim is a person who is into video games, but doesn't care a lot about them, right? He doesn't allow them to consume his thoughts, I would say. He's the friend where he comes up and says, hey, I heard Fire Emblem is pretty good. And you're like, oh my gosh, Fire Emblem is really good, dude. And you know he's never gonna play it. I don't judge Tim for that though. I mean, I am Tim's Tim when it comes to comic books. He's like, hey, Young Avengers is really great right now, actually. They're killing superheroes from other universes to save our own universe. And I'm like, hey, that's awesome. But I'm never gonna read Young Avengers. Same thing, we're all Tims to somebody's Tim. Anyway, Tim right now is playing through the NES Ninja Turtles games. And what's always funny is getting Tim's perspective on games. And his takeaway primarily is that they are hard. And I was thinking about it, and it's just, yeah, those games are too hard. They've always been too hard. And what's funny is that I got suddenly angry about it. I'm angry they made those games hard, because the reason we wanted to play those games is that we were kids who wanted to be Ninja Turtles. And I guess from an adult perspective, it's like, well, you want your Ninja Turtles bed sheets? You want your Ninja Turtles TV trays? Here's a Ninja Turtles video game. And honestly, I think that was doing us all a disservice. Those games are super hard, and Tim is beating them, and the way he's beating them is he said he got to Slash. And he had to create a save state every time he landed a hit on Slash. By the way, I do not endorse Tim's decision to emulate games, officially. But anyway, yes, he did it. He beat Slash, he beat the video game, but I don't feel like Tim was being a Ninja Turtle. Ninja Turtles wouldn't use save states. Chapter 2, Dragon's Dogma. So, a couple of Fridays ago, it was a Friday night, I had no plans. Imagine that. So I went to GameStop and I was like, all right, I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna find a game I've never played before, I'm gonna buy it. Kind of like First 15, really. And I found Dragon's Dogma. I never played Dragon's Dogma, so I thought, I'm gonna give this a shot. Let's do this, let's get in. 2 nights later, I was done with Dragon's Dogma. Let me tell you why. I got pretty deep into the game. And I got to this dungeon. It was pretty dank, pretty interesting dungeon. I wasn't supposed to be there, I always like that. So I'm in this dungeon, and I'm followed by my pawns. And pawns in this game are your party. And you know what I like when video games justify within the story some sort of dumb gameplay thing. In this case, your pawns are AI. So in the video game, they're just like, the pawns are not quite bright, but they love to adventure. They're not quite human, but they'll follow you anywhere, fine. So I'm in this dungeon, and I get to the end, and there's a giant doorway, and in front of the giant doorway is this whole path, and you know there's gonna be lizards monsters that way, and then there's these rocks. And if you have the ability to double jump, you can just double jump straight to the doorway. Of course I have the ability to double jump. I invested in that before anything. So I'm double jumping over to the doorway, and then my dumb pawns drown themselves because they can't They can't figure out what I'm doing. And then they just hop off and they just drown. They just fall off the edges and drown in the water. Anyway, they all drown. They're all dead. And in this doorway, I see a Cyclops. And the game has decided that my level isn't high enough to hurt the Cyclops yet. Whatever, I'm going to kill the Cyclops. So I go back to my little stone crags and I shoot arrows through a crack at the Cyclops for 45 minutes. And I kill it. And I walk over there, I collect my rewards, and then I would have to go back to some dumb stone to get my pawns back. And I said, no, good job, Kyle, you beat a video game, but I don't feel like I killed a Cyclops. Chapter 3, Destiny. So, an unusual thing, I don't review games ever, I'm very happy not to, but for Brandon Jones's review of Destiny, I'm playing with him because the best way, of course, to review Destiny is to play with two buddies. I get to be one of his buddies, which is fun. And you know I care about story a lot in video games. Destiny does not care about story. It does not care to make you play as a guardian with no name, no backstory, and no character. There you are, Guardian. Here's a bunch of faces you can choose from. That's, to me, is a choice, I guess, but not one I'm normally into. I'm critical of story. I'm critical of Mario Kart 8's story. Side chapter, Mario Kart 8. So, you might even remember on this show, I was real upset about Pink Gold Peach being in Mario Kart 8. Didn't make sense to me. I was like, that world is too consistent for this one thing to exist. And suddenly I don't care about it anymore. And that is because a couple of weeks ago, DLC was announced for Mario Kart 8, in which Link, one of the last remaining respectable video game characters, will be appearing inside of the world of Mario Kart. And while part of me probably died on that moment, while probably part of me has gone mad, I'm also like at peace finally with what Mario Kart 8 is all about. I'm at this level of understanding with it. And because of Link appearing in Mario Kart 8, I've found that I've finally been able to let it go. Basically, it was like a romantic comedy where like the jock at the end walks up to that girl and he's just like, no wait, I get it. You want to have fun. Go be with Link. And it's like, oh, the jock's cool. That's why I go be free, Mario Kart 8. Have fun. It's like that song, the Let It Go song. I want to let you know of my desire. Let it go. I'm almost on fire. Not a reference Tim would get. Anyway, back to Chapter 3, Destiny. I was having fun with this game despite its lack of story. And it all, to me, made sense in this one point. We're about 10 hours in at this point. We finally get our spaceships. Most of the game, you all have the same spaceships as your buddies, but we all selected from a menu, unlocked some new spaceships, and we hadn't seen them up until a loading screen. We're going to the new planet, and there's our 3 spaceships. And we're saying to each other, despite our delirium, despite playing this game since 5 a.m., we're saying, oh, dude, your spaceship is so cool. No, yours is cool. Oh, man, mine's really rad. Kyle's, yours sucks. No, I kind of like mine. I realize it's brown, but it's cool. We were really excited about each other's spaceships. For why? I mean, we didn't draw them. We didn't create them. We didn't build them. We barely earned them. We just completed a video game mission to get these spaceships. But the thing is, at that point, we were all little boys who were excited to be badass space badasses. We were playing pretend, and we were excited about our spaceships. And to me, that's what Destiny is about. Chapter 4, Summer Lesson. So back to Summer Lesson. Of course, we're back here. Let's be honest, this is a pervy game for pervs. This is a game that Bandai Namco said, hey, pervs, we're making that game that you want. And I kind of like that. Despite everything that Summer Lesson is, it seems like a pretty good perv game. It seems like a game in which you can be a perv to the fullest extent of being perv that the law allows. And to me, that's why it's exciting. This wouldn't exist without VR. And so the reason I'm excited is that I'm hoping that VR opens doors to more video games that are just about being things. My hope is that VR will allow us to play a Ninja Turtles game where we can be a Ninja Turtle without using save states, or we can go into fantasy worlds and kill Cyclopses without just shooting them in arrows through corners. And so, Summer Lesson, in a bizarre way, makes me excited for the future. I do think that VR will bring about the end of mankind, but that's a discussion for a whole other day. Because that is the episode for this week. That's it. Blop. Before I go, though, I should handle some business. Last week's episode, I made a couple of mistakes. I made many mistakes, but 2 big ones. Because rule number 2 of the final Bosman is don't touch your nose. And I certainly touched my nose, and 2 people called me out on it about 2 different instances of nose touches. Matrix, of course, Matrix with an 8, and all greens, of course, with a Z. So congratulations, you 2. You now get to be in the backdrop. There you go. And there's Matrix with an 8. And there's all greens. Oh, look how happy they look. Good job. You called me out and making a mistake. Hope you enjoy watching that spaceship all day. That's the episode for this week. If you're on Twitter, you can find me at Kyle Bosman. I'll be back here next Wednesday. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody. Normally at the end for a bonus bit, we try to do something funny or fun. But I have to use the space for something else this week. Because this morning, Defy published its ethics policy for its video game sites. And there is something I'm now obligated to reveal. I was, have been, and am a Nintendo fanboy. I have a sometimes irrational attachment to its products and software. And sometimes I have allowed my love for Donkey Kong and double jumps to cloud my judgment. I have at times said that the Wii U is a legitimate gaming console and that the A button belongs on the right. And I am sorry for that. I hope that you can try to find trust in me in the future. Thank you. So I wanted to explain the story of my gray suit while I'm telling stories. So E3 was coming up, and I was going to be live on Spike TV. And so I'm like, all right, time to get a new suit. And every time I get a new suit, I want to get a James Bond suit, right? I just want to look like Daniel Craig. And so I said that. I walked in and I'm like, hey, I want like a James Bond suit. And the guy looks at me, and he's a funny guy. I forget his name, but he had gray hair. And he's just like, he looks at me, he's like, I think I know what to do for you. So we get the suit, it's this one. And I'm like, hey, doesn't it seem a little baggy? And he says, no, dude, you look great. And I look at him, and I look down at his pants. They're the baggiest pants you've ever seen in your life. And so I'm like, okay, all right. This is a story about how passive I am, I guess. And so when we're finally, like, I tried it on, and like I'm signing off on the suit, and you'd like check all these boxes. And one of the boxes that was checked was for the bottom of the pants. I forget what this is called, but how to sew the bottom of the pants. And he had like the baggiest thing checked. And I'm like, hey, do I get my opinion on this? And he goes, oh, sure, yeah, you could do baggy, or you could do not baggy, or you could do medium. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? And he's like, well, I have the baggy one. And so I said, I'll take medium. And then I went on live TV and did a bad job. End of story. See you next week.